Hi, my name is Rob Morgan. I'm the director of the Beyond Boundaries program at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm very excited to tell you a little bit about the Beyond Boundaries program, some of the whys behind it, and some of the course structure and that type of thing. So let's get right to it. This shouldn't take long. The contact information for Beyond Boundaries is a dedicated email address. beyondboundaries@woostel.edu is our dedicated email address. Also, everything I'm going to talk about today is on the Beyond Boundaries website, which you are likely on right now. Before I forget, the BB podcast is a great new offering we have for Beyond Boundaries where we interview staff, students, faculty members in Beyond Boundaries. I highly recommend that you subscribe and listen to that. All right, let's get right to it. The big why behind the Beyond Boundaries program is somewhat based on a question that you and I have been asked since we were little kids, and it was this one. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? It is kind of a daunting question and implies that there's sort of a linear path to life, which of course we know there isn't. So in Beyond Boundaries, we kind of ask it a little bit different. We ask you, instead of what do you want to be when you grow up, what problems do you want to solve? And in our case, how would you use WashU to actually answer those big questions? So instead of picking a major, we ask students to pick a big question that they'd like to answer, and that's the application process for the Beyond Boundaries program, a supplemental essay where you identify what big question you might want to answer and how you would use 2 or more schools at Washington University to do it. There are other 3 sort of sub-whys to the program. There's this one, which is basically all about this idea that 85% of jobs in just 10 years, actually 9 years now, have not even been invented yet, which is a staggering number, right? And it also implies that we have to create students that graduate with skills across disciplines, able to connect ideas across disciplines. We'll get into what divergent thinking means in just a moment. Also, this number, only 27% of current adults are in a job related to their field of study. So that number is getting smaller, I believe, as time goes on, as the lines blur between divisions. And also this study here about basically leadership essentials. I love this graphic. It shows a well-rounded global citizen looks something like this, someone that can build trust, design for failure, model adaptability, be comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty, and be a T-shaped thinker, which we'll get into in a second. But this is the type of student that we're looking for in the Beyond Boundaries program, one that embraces those ideals. Before I continue, Beyond Boundaries is 2 things. It's a series of courses. Those courses are offered to all first-year students, whether you're in Beyond Boundaries, the program, or not. Those are first-year courses taught by 2 or more faculty across 2 or more divisions around a big topic. We have ones on climate change, sustainability. I teach one on creativity. These courses are very popular with first-year students, so be sure to take them whether or not you get into Beyond Boundaries, the program, or not. They're open to only first-year students. And then the program basically is something that we have created using those classes as kind of a raw material. Students in the program are required to take one class in each of their first 2 semesters that is a Beyond Boundaries course. All right, what are we looking for? That's what you want to know, I'm sure. This is probably obvious by now, but we want a student that is interested in seeing the world with a diversity of lenses. We don't like to use the word undecided. We think there's a negative connotation to that word undecided. Students in the program are very much decided. They've decided that it's going to take 2 or more divisions to answer their big question. We want students that are comfortable with the question. Every student in the program gets an email from me with this try to love questions for themselves quote. It's about understanding that what you don't know is something that will come to you. You don't have to have all the answers right now. I know we prioritize answers, but that's not the case here. Solutions aren't necessary. A lot of students maybe waste a few words in their supplemental essays identifying not only a big question, but also a solution. We don't think the solution is really necessary. We want you to love the questions, as I just said. We also think questions are more important than answers. In fact, the wrong answer is the right answer to a different question, if you think about it. T-shaped thinkers and collaborators. We want students that enjoy thinking divergently across disciplines. Let me quickly show you what a T-shaped thinker is. At WashU, we do the vertical part of that T very, very well. We have scholars who are excellent in certain areas, but we also want students to be that divergent. We want them to be that horizontal part of the T to identify solutions, innovative solutions across disciplines. Here's a great example of endoscopy, study of internal organs. For years, doctors were coming up with ways to insert a tube into your throat, but it took an Israeli missile designer, of all people, to come up with the pill cam, basically a camera that you swallow that could tell you what your insides look like and how your doctor could tell you what's wrong with you that way. As I said, we all have sort of vertical parts of our T, and it's important to note that we have many, many vertical parts. A typical individual might look something like this, where we have multiple vertical depths of our T's, and then a divergent thinking horizontal that connects them all. And then collaboration. We want students that want to work together. This is an example of a student who is a hearing impaired lacrosse player. Students worked on a project with him to help him basically identify when the referee's whistle was being blown. And together they came up with this, a lacrosse helmet that detected pitch of a referee's whistle and then illuminated a red light under the visor. Very collaborative, very innovative solution to a problem for, in this case, that young man, Charlie. Across schools, we have a number of different opportunities for students across schools, and that's what we want in Beyond Boundaries program students. We want them to study and be interested across schools. However, Arts and Sciences is by far the largest of our 4 undergraduate divisions, and you can ask a very good interdisciplinary question and still be inside of Arts and Sciences, the big umbrella that is Arts and Sciences. If that's the case, we highly recommend you apply into Arts and Sciences and then check out ampersand programs. Ampersand is that funny letter between Arts and Sciences. Ampersand programs are great for students that want to study in an interdisciplinary way within Arts and Sciences. And then finally, there's no risk in applying. And by that, I mean that your supplemental essay for Beyond Boundaries, the program, is applicable to all 4 undergraduate divisions moving forward. So there's no risk in applying. You do not forfeit your application if you do not get into Beyond Boundaries. I want to also talk about the classes, program, and structure. This is very kind of detailed and again, all on our website. But here's the big takeaway here. In the first year, there's a curricular requirement for Beyond Boundaries. You have to take 7 credits in your first semester, roughly 4 in your second semester. You also begin an extracurricular process that involves a points-based system I'll get into in a moment. But this is the big takeaway. You have to balance Beyond Boundaries program curricular requirements with your other prerequisites that you may be pursuing in other divisions. So I want to give you an overview of what the upcoming fall 2020 schedule looks like for Beyond Boundaries program students. These are students entering in the fall of 2021. They take a 1-credit seminar, which is a very popular seminar open to only Beyond Boundaries program students, that roughly half of these class meetings involve a really fantastic panel like this one, where students are listening to faculty, staff, alums, you name it, talk about big topics. It's really quite wonderful. And then college writing is a requirement of all students actually at WashU, not just program students, except for engineering students, I believe, do not take college writing. And then finally, you're required to take 1 Beyond Boundaries course. In the fall, we offer these 5 courses. They cover everything from climate change to, there's the one on creativity I mentioned, an entrepreneurship class, a very popular class on aging called When I'm 64, and art of medicine. So a student in the program must take one of these 5 courses to be in the program. And in the spring of 2022, we basically have 5 courses on the books. We have these 3 classes: Gender, Youth, and Global Health, taught by 2 faculty in our graduate level schools, Sustainability and Beyond, a very popular sustainability course, and a brand new one called Environmental Racism and Health of Everyone. In addition to that, we highly encourage program students only to take one of these 2 courses. These Bear Bridge courses are basically, the bridge is a reference to a community engagement component. So we have 2 of those on the books, very popular with our students: Empathy First and Law, Race, and Design. And then finally, as I mentioned, there's an extracurricular engagement to the program, and that is a points-based system. And the way we manage those points is through an app. The app is actually designed by 2 alums from WashU, and it works like this. Basically, the app has different categories for different points-based totals for different activities for the most part. If we click on Speaker Exhibit, for example, those are worth 1 point each. You'll see in this case there's the Free Speech and Art Activism event happening. If you click Interested in Going to that, you, as a Beyond Boundaries program student, you'll see who else is going. My code name, by the way, is Clay Eastwood. And then in addition, you'll have a chance to then prove that you went to these events by essentially uploading a picture, a selfie of yourself at these events. And students have an opportunity here to post those pictures to a public gallery. So you'll see students in our own program that have done all those great things. Basically, that's it. That's the Beyond Boundaries program in a nutshell. I encourage you to reach out to us if you have questions. beyondboundaries@wustl, wustl.edu is our dedicated email address. Feel free to email us there. Again, check out Beyond Boundaries podcast. We're very proud of that podcast. It's a nice, great, long-form way to really get to know what the program is all about. So thank you for listening.